I think I'm in contention definitely for the most barreled surfer of 2020. The majority of the South African people are calling this 2020 winter the best winter in 20 years. It's just one of those locations, 4 to 6 foot running right-hander, perfection, going as fast as you can go. Gang violence, a lot of drug use, homeless. To see some of the kids where they're at today and where they've come from is truly inspiring.
Welcome back to a special episode of Red Bull's No Contest and Stab's Unplugged. I'm your host, Ashton Goggins. Filling in for proud new Pops Mick Fanning this episode is South African international standout turned expat entrepreneur, Damian Duma Farrenford, and his longtime best friend, third in the world last year on the WSL Championship Tour, Jordy Smith. Under normal circumstances, the trip from Rio to Port Elizabeth is a fairly painless 10 to 14-hour flight, then a short drive 75 kilometers southwest to Jeffreys Bay. For Jordy Smith, returning from an extended Hawaiian off-season, which many called the best late-season Hawaii in decades, it meant a 2-week quarantine and strict travel restrictions throughout the country. Regardless, South Africa has enjoyed one of the best winters in recent memory. Weeks and weeks of pumping surf, and Duma and I caught up with Jordy from Los Angeles after Jordy returned from another long land strike nearly across the entire African continent.
Did you say that you have been holed up in the best place that you could be isolated as a surfer over the last 6 months?
Yes.
Please elaborate.
Yeah.
Explain where you be, what you be doing.
No, well, I mean, yeah, I think I'm in contention definitely for the most barreled surfer of 2020. That's for sure. Coming from Hawaii, where speaking to like John and Jamie and them, saying that they had like the best late season in 10 years or so. And then literally as the last swell hit there, I was on a repatriation flight and I came back to South Africa, and the majority of the South African people are calling this 2020 winter the best winter in 20 years. So it's been a lot of driving, a lot of traveling up and down the coast, but it's been next level. It's been a good one to pick a year off tour, that's for sure. Yeah, this is the first year I've been home for a winter in 13 or 14 years. So it's been quite a long time. And even before, it might even be longer than that, because generally around this time we used to have to go to the US Open, and that would be, you cut your winter short. So, yeah, it's been at least 15 years. And, once we had got on the repatriation flight end of April, May, we booked it home. We had to quarantine for 2 weeks in Johannesburg. Once we quarantined there, we had to figure out a rent-a-car from there and then drive back to Cape Town. And at that stage, you weren't actually allowed out of your house.
Yeah, I'm very jealous of you having a good season at home. And I mean, it's one thing for it to be J-Bay, like everybody wants to be able to spend a winter in South Africa. But to not be there as someone who's from there, I'm sure it got old, having to fly to Huntington Beach when South Africa's pumping to go surf waist-high contest waves for 10 days. I mean, I have a hard time.
Absolutely.
There's like 2-foot wind swell in the Gulf from a hurricane, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I was home. It'd be so fun to be, like an all-time day wherever you're from. But I wish I was.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole south coast of Durban, there were waves breaking that hadn't broken in like 15 years. Waves that weren't even considered waves. The sand across the whole of South Africa was just groomed, and it's about as good as it gets. I'm really surprised at the amount of footage that hasn't come out about South Africa,
It's because Jordy's been yelling at everyone, not letting anyone post the clips until the winter's over.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing, bro. I just
don't fucking post it.
Like, one posts until October, November. That's it. Look at this.
What you got there?
Oh,
this is just yesterday. boys.
Would you go dunes, George?
Oh,
Yeah, it's June.
So that's the beach that I grew up at, Ashton.
I
I
literally
literally grew up walking there. I could walk there from my house when I was a kid. It's unfair, and it shouldn't even be good this time of year. It's normally the summer wave because you get the offshore southeasters.
It's just non-stop, like every wave. Just on the nut.
How long was that swell? How long was it that good for?
Oh my god!
Oh my!
All day.
What? How's that clip?
Yeah, the waves are mental.
Are you about to drop like a 40-minute just banger surf film on people?
Yes.
I don't know. We'll have to get some stuff.
He is. Dude, this thing's coming out whether he likes it or not.
This was an odd bit of trivia that got sent to me by Christopher Binns. But I didn't realize that you and Kelly Slater have the same birthday.
Yeah, I know. Isn't Kelly lucky?
Have you and Kelly ever celebrated your birthdays together? Like actually had a birthday together?
Yeah, we've had a couple coconuts here and there. No, I'm just kidding. No, I never. I've sent him a couple of messages, but I've never got a reply.
Don't hold me back. I love the way you try to make things right. Come and talk with me.
Like the weird feeling you get at J-Bay. I was in the lineup there now, and it's just one of those locations very similar to like Pipeline, and even more so than like a Chopu. Like when you're standing on the beach and you're looking at the waves, I feel like it's even more, in a way, like spiritual or prestigious than a Pipeline, because the whole world can relate to a 4 to 6 foot running right-hander, perfection, going as fast as you can go. Like the whole world can't really relate to 6 to 8 foot, 10 foot Pipeline. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For most people, that's like the top of their comfort zone. If they were like, oh, if I could surf my dream, like, perfect wave, it would be 6 to 8 foot J-Bay.
Yeah, totally. And even other waves, I was thinking long and hard about it. You think even, like you could stand on the beach at G-Land, you'll see it roping down, but you still won't get that feeling like, oh my, wow, I can't believe this. It's Africa. There's a lot of like history at the place. There's a lot of other kind of outside influences that come with it. It's very raw. So yeah, I don't know. It's it's a really cool place.
The wave still breaks so close to shore, right? And the way it stacks up against the lineup, and how long it's stretched out, and the visibility up and down the point from the top to the bottom and the different sections. I think there's not many waves like that. It's almost got like that closeness of Pipeline, so people feel like they're right next to the surfers and they can almost touch them.
And that's not something that comes through. I mean, probably the same as Pipe, but I don't think you realize that until you've been to J-Bay.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a better contest structure than the J-Bay one that they build every year. Like the way it's like amphitheater, stadium style seating, right? And then the fact that it's South Africa and it's so mellow, and you can have drinks over the balcony while watching the surf. It's pretty unique.
You've done Stab in the Dark for us twice now. And one of one of the big success stories of Stab in the Dark has been seeing you in the last year launch your new surf brand with your dad. Can you talk?
Yeah, that was, to be honest, that was mind-blowing. I had no idea that he was even a part of that or how his board even got in there.
There's no way. It's a G-force. Oh my God. Wow, I didn't expect that. Holy crap. The force, eh? So he can shape, and he wasn't just talking shit all these years.
And then, like obviously huge thanks to you guys actually for just kind of even making that happen. I'd obviously ridden a bunch of his boards and stuff in the past, but never really gave him the shot. And then I guess that's what Stab in the Dark did, just really, well, my whole mentality behind it was like, don't think too much, just kind of stand up and see how they feel. More so than check out every board and try and figure out what they were, at least in the first one. And then once I realized, there's so many other options than kind of what I was riding at the time, and extremely close to home for me, I could really kind of make something happen. And then, I kind of was watching Kelly's thing closely on how he did it. And obviously he's a way more credible surfer than I, but I just felt like I'm one of the only surfers that really has that relationship with their dad that's at that level now. I know back in the day there was Luke Egan and his father, and I know that I think even Yaden's father might have shaped boards. So there's been a bunch of people, but I just didn't think anybody that was on the tour, and then anybody in my stature and my size. The majority of the public are, around my weight, and that was constantly the question that I got asked. What do I ride? How do I ride them? And I just thought, why not try and make a board and a brand for the public and just be open and transparent about it and keep it fun. And then I obviously jumped off CI at the time, and I was riding a bunch of galleys boards, and he was insane for me, a really good shaper as well. And then, now I just kind of jumped back onto my dad's stuff, and we've been ironing out the kinks. I think this year has been huge for me, just to really dial in exactly what I'm going to need for, say, next year or the end of this year going forward. And then, all in all, it's an exciting process. We're just kind of getting started. My dad's really frothed up, and he actually came down to J-Bay for that swell, but he was pretty busy, so he drove back and got back into the bay. He's probably one of the only people I know that would skip on 6 foot perfect J-Bay to go shape more boards. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Can you just please stay?
Someone's got to do some work in the family, Jordy. Come on.
No. Well, my mom has been doing a lot of it.
I mean, so would you say that this last year you've ridden more variety of surfboards than ever in your life?
Definitely, yeah.
I want to see you win a world title next year on your dad's boards. I feel like that's the fucking story.
Oh, yeah, I'd be so stoked. I mean, starting with the first event.
The exchange rate of South African rand to Australian or American dollars makes Jeffreys Bay a ridiculously affordable first world surf destination. Beachfront lodgings right on the point will run you less than $100 US, and a world-class meal of wild game or South Africa's internationally renowned beef will cost you a fraction of what it would in Oz or the States. It also means that charitable funds from would-be international visitors can go a long way to help the local community in need. Grab a fresh blade from Jordy Smith's dad, Graham, and their new venture, Smith Shapes.
One thing that we wanted to talk about was some of the organizations that you guys have been working with in South Africa that are sort of doing good humanitarian work with the Surfers Not Street Children and feeding Let's Feed J-Bay.
Yeah, so as far as Surfers Not Street Children go, Tom, he's done an incredible job. A lot of people, when they think they get involved with charities and that, they tend to kind of just see it as this help out for a weekend sort of thing. But this has really become something that I've been really passionate about. It's a lifetime of helping out, to be able to change people's lives for the better. And a lot of these kids, there's been some incredible success stories where they get them off the streets, literally, that are in, gang violence, a lot of drug use, stuff like that, homeless, abandoned parents, and then they house them in this facility. They educate them, not only with just kind of general education, but also about surfing, right? And then once they kind of fall into that trap where in the love with surfing, and teach them about our history in the sport and what it can kind of do for you and all the brands. And then the kind of end goal is to obviously try and get them jobs and positions working for some of these brands around around South Africa. And it's just been an insane process. I mean, to see some of the kids where they're at today and where they've come from is truly inspiring, you know, do their duties, and they have some structure in their lives. They kind of have these huge advantages. A few years back, I ended up bringing a kid to Australia with me, and he came to an event, Sichle, and we kind of gelled quite a lot, you know. The funny thing is then he goes back home, and then all those buddies are calling him a movie star, you know, and all this type of thing, you know, kind of with lightheartedly, but, you know, it kind of inspires each and every one of them to be able to keep on a good and straight and narrow path, because there are benefits when you do it that way, and hard work does pay off. So, yeah, there was actually a kid, Tando, that I think he made it to the national team. Our national team made it to Worlds. I think he might have even placed like 5th in the world at one of the world events, the ISAs. So that just shows you that I think there's so much undiscovered talent here in our country. World champions, three world champions out of Brazil have all come from the favelas, right? Pretty much. Maybe not Gabriel, but Italo, I know, very poor backgrounds. Adriano, very humble beginnings. I can't even imagine how much potential is actually sitting here in South Africa, kind of waiting to be discovered, I guess, or just waiting for an opportunity.
Yeah.
So,
and that's where like affirmative action and that works, right? Like having a spot on the national team for a kid, you know, that's been misfortunate or, you know, has struggled, and having those spots, because 20 years later, from 1994, we had a South African SA champ, Brandon Benjamin, right? Who was a young black kid that came up through and won the national champs against Greg Emsey in the best service in South Africa. You know, that's why it works, right? And, you know, Jordy's missed out on teams. I've missed out on teams getting on because we got 4th and the 4th spot was reserved. But now you've got these kids like, you know, Tando, who went to Worlds and got 5th and now works in the surf shop opposite his dad's, and like has like a whole life built from it. It's incredible through these organizations.
When did you start to like sort of look at South Africa that way and think about those sorts of things?
When I was growing up, I grew up in an African community. So for me, I saw everything was the same. Everybody was equal. Everyone's, you know, I played a lot of soccer. 99% of my whole team was African. So it was natural to me. But then when you go down to the beach and you start realizing that pretty much all the people at the beach are only kind of white surfers, that's when I was like, oh, this is kind of weird, a little different.
The coronavirus pandemic has hit tourism-reliant surf towns like Jeffreys Bay incredibly hard. The loss of visitors during surfing's high season has meant the loss of countless jobs throughout the local African community, and a near critical situation economically and nutritionally in the area. As she has for decades, Jeffreys Bay's matron saint, Sharon Crack, has been instrumental in the relief effort, working with her organization, Let's Feed J-Bay.
Sharon Crack, who's ever been to J-Bay, has, you know, traveling surfers come across her house, and what she's done, she's basically built that town from building Billabong from the ground up in the event country feeling.
For people that have never been to J-Bay, even, you know, for myself, before I'd gone, I'd heard Sharon's name my whole life. One of the only really like internationally famous like matriarchs of a surf zone, I think. Maybe did well, first of all, she was one of the most successful and richest women in South Africa. She built Billabong from the ground up to one of the most recognizable brands. You know, the recognition was on par with like Coca-Cola and these kind of brands, you know. And she built that, I think, I can't remember, but I think she did the 73 country feeling, was when it was just, J-Bay was just sand dunes, and she ran that first event, and then, you know, the next year she got Oki and the crew out, and then she met Gordon Merchant, and then she got the Billabong, you know, she took her from country feeling to Billabong. She was just making shorts for Gordon, and then he was putting his patches on there, and then he's like, hey, why don't you take this brand? It's taken off. And she took that and ran, you know, and she built that event to what it is today. But any traveling surfer's gone past her house. She's got the premier house on the point. She's basically Jordy and mine's second mother. We grew up in that dungeon that he talks about. They feed all the kids. Anyone could come and stay. Like, and it's still, her doors are still open like that today. You could be a random traveling Aussie or American surfer and walk in there and ask for help, or, you know, stop by and say you want to check the house, and she'll welcome you in. And that's just who she is. She's just one of those people. She's truly one of a kind and an icon in surf, right? Maybe not as famous as some of these other traditional brand owners,
But what she's achieved with Billabong and what she did with that brand in South Africa is truly remarkable. I mean, she basically built that whole town of J-Bay. She employed all the local people, everybody from the surrounding communities. Anyone that had a problem could come to her. She'll sort it out. But now J-Bay's in a really bad way because the surf community and tourism has just been so damaged by COVID, and it's not coming back soon. And the traveling South African surfer really doesn't have the kind of money to come and spend like the international does because the dollar exchange rate's so high. So a lot of stores are still shut. So that local community on the outskirts of J-Bay, they're really struggling. So they're trying to raise 30 grand right now, $30,000 for this. It's like this new meal replacement, but it's not one of those like just cheap pups that just like fan them up and has no nutrients. This is like a high nutrient dense. It's basically about 65 to 75 cents a meal per person. That's what they need. So they need about a 3-month supply to get them back on their feet, and need to raise about 30 grand. She's organizing warehousing. So the Let's Feed J-Bay crew is made up of a bunch of local surfers, everyone from Dylan Lightfoot to Remy Peterson to Stevie Sawyer. You know, these kids are doing it all. They're not taking a cent. They're organizing friends' trucks to deliver the food, and it's you know, it truly is a community program. So we're about to run a really cool competition with Mikey Febb. Him and Britt are going to be donating his new boards. They'll do a Zoom call with you, and you can take your own order, and they'll write your order, and you'll get 2 of his new like twin pin models and all this other stuff too. So hopefully that raises some cash, and the goal is to get 30. Ideally, you get 50, 60 grand. That's what they really need. You know, these people are starving. Well, we eat every night and have a good meal. These people are already starving in their communities because it's not that there's just no work for them. There's no way for them to make money, and it's not like the US where there's no, they don't even have bank accounts. You know what I mean? So how these people are going to get on unemployment and that kind of thing, right? If you've ever been to J-Bay or you ever plan on coming to J-Bay, you need to donate. It's $5 or $2, whatever. You know, it doesn't actually. You know, I think what's been so amazing during these crazy times.
About 3 coffees a day. It's $15. There you go.
Exactly.
3 coffees in California, it's like 10 coffees in South Africa as far as how cheap everything is there. Like, it's so easy to do a lot of good with American money in South Africa if you were to donate right now.
Absolutely.
100%.
And $5-10 goes a long way. I mean, $5 feeds a family for, kind of 4 or 5 days.
That's it for another episode of No Contest Unplugged. We'll be back live and on the ground this month for a special episode from the Australian Grand Slam, with Stab's Australian senior editor taking the mic and running with it, a man known formerly as Wet Lettuce, Mr. Danny Johnson.